All right, from the studios in Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Paul Wertico accepted our invitation to our show. Paul, welcome to my humble podcast.
Thank you, Claudio. Great to see you again, man. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Have Merry Christmas as well, a little late. So let's go back to the beginning of your life. For people, I'm quite sure everybody knows who you are, but just in case there are new people there, they don't know, feel free to elaborate, your start in music, where you came from a musical family. How old were you when you perhaps playing with sticks at the time. You didn't have a drum and so on and so forth. What led you into music to begin with?
Sure. Well, my family, I'm an only child, and my mom and father, they were not musical. So, and actually no one in my family was musical. So I really don't know how I got here as far as that. You know, I just always heard music. I loved music. It was just a natural thing for me to kind of follow my passion. And, I had other passions. I had, sports, I had chemistry, but I was lucky in um, I guess, my upbringing to have some great, my grade school teacher, my high school teacher, people that were able to let me be me, for instance,
Yeah,
and let my personality and my vision and my passions and all those things kind of just keep going. Because otherwise, I probably would have said, "No, I don't want to do that," because I don't, I'm not the kind of person to be told what to do. I like to do what I want to do, but also with the respect to everybody else, not to be an egomaniac or just, talk about like, oh, this is what I want to do. I don't care about anybody else. My vision was always to make everything around me better. And as a drummer and as a musician and hopefully as an educator and as a human being, that's my goal in life is just to try to make things better in the way I see them.
yeah. Got you. Were you in any band in high school when you were, I don't know, 14, 15, that age?
Well, sure. I mean, my parents, we moved to Cary, Illinois, and
Yeah.
it was just going into sixth grade. And, my mom said, take up an instrument. Don't take up the drums, which was funny because I was always playing with, the radio with pencils. And I joined the grade school band. And my band director was a saxophone teacher named Vern Pade, and he taught me how to hold the drumsticks and how to read music. But I'm basically self-taught. And then I became like the grade school soloist because I don't know, I could just play better than
Yeah.
my friends that were playing 4 years better than me. And then I went to high school, Cary Grove High School, where I had an amazing band director, Donald Ahrensberger, who was a trumpet player. We're still friends to this day. I dedicated my book, Turn the Beat Around, to him. And he would just let me do whatever I wanted to do. I could improvise on symphonies and everything. And he was, one of those band directors that not only let everybody kind of blossom in their own way, but he would take us out on his own money to go see Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Buddy Rich, Woody Herman, Stan Kenton, Les Brown, and we would sit with these guys. So here I am in high school sitting on the break with Duke Ellington next to me or Count Basie next to me. I mean,
Wow.
so those were the type of things that, allowed me to love music and blossom in the way I saw it. And then also, I'm self-taught on the drum set. So like I asked my mom many years ago, like, oh, mom, can I take some drum set lessons? And she was like, no, no, just do what you're doing. So I guess I had this natural thing. I have great reflexes and good ears and all that stuff. And drumming was just really easy for me. And one thing led to another, and then I got a scholarship at Western Illinois University, and the next thing I know, here I am.
I imagine that you knew back then when you were 18 or 19. I know, I remember that you attended school and you ended up dropping up, I think. You knew back then that music was your thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, it was funny because I just loved it. And it was a very natural thing. And, I mean, kind of kidding around, but, when you're younger, you think, oh, wow, the girls all think I'm cool. And, I don't have to wake up early in the morning as a musician. Later on, you find out, yeah, you got 6
You
a.m.
have to.
lights and stuff. But no, I mean, it was just a thing that it really found me as much as I found it. I mean, like I think life is, one of those journeys. We were talking about it earlier before we went on about like how sometimes life just finds you and you find it. And if you're lucky enough, you can recognize it and then take it, and then the next, forks in the road, you take the right ones, and
Mm.
before you know it, you're actually going in a direction that you've always
Mm.
wanted to go, even if you didn't know about it.
Yeah, like we said before, the journey is many, many, many times more important than destination. Enjoy, keep on doing what you're doing. Like I told you before, when I opened one radio and during the pandemic, I began doing interviews. I never question myself the end product. I want to get to know musicians, get to know people, and learn more about music. That's the satisfaction, right? In your case, definitely music found you.
Yeah,
I mean, no, there's no question around it. Many people go to this teacher, that teacher, that teacher, and look at you, man. Behind you, you have 7 Grammys, man.
yeah,
Like, my
yeah,
my God, man.
yeah. Well, it was also I listen to everything. I listen to rock, I listen to jazz, ethnic music. So it's almost like the world now. If you think about the world, it's like us against them. And, if you really look musically, sometimes there were people like, oh, jazz people thought rock people were terrible back then, or rock people, might not understand jazz. So they just wanted to play simple music, just the kind of things where, um, you go, oh, it's just that. That's nothing. Well, no, if you listen to everything, it's all got special qualities to it. And I was lucky enough to keep an open mind, to have my mind stay open by my teachers and everything, not close me up. And that way I was able to discover that, music from Chile, if you incorporate that into a jazz thing, but with rock elements, all of a sudden you had a new thing. It's just like when
Absolutely.
if you cook Italian or Mexican or Greek or Japanese, people started going, oh, what happens if we mix these two things? And next thing you know, you have new combinations of beautiful food. And that's what you want to make is beautiful music, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking back now, well, going forward, from whatever the time you finish high school until now, 2024, you have been described to one of the most versatile musical drummers, no drummer, but the musical drummer in music today, man. And of course, you were a member of the Pat Metheny Group from 1993 to 2001. Good for you, man. You know.
Well, I've been lucky in all my relationships. I've been with my wife for since 1976, basically. I've,
Yeah.
I've been teaching. This is my 22nd year at Roosevelt University, and before that, I was 16 years at Northwestern University. Almost all the bands, when I look at my discography, which is hundreds and hundreds of records, a lot of the bands I played with, there's many years of playing with them, many records, not just one
Mm.
record and then you're gone, or one year
Mm.
and you're gone. So I really feel that longevity is also important because, some people just kind of they just touch something and then they're gone. But sometimes you stay with things and new things open up. And it's a journey that sometimes there's things that come up that it's almost like a wall that you have to get through to get to that next thing. And I think musically and personally and everything, I've been very fortunate to have kept going.
Yeah, good for you, man. You like to be how when you hire somebody, it's not your band and somebody hired to put some drum track on an album and it become complicated or the person is arrogant or you don't get along or whatever. How with your experience you manage this stuff because a lot of people there with a lot of personalities know your band, they hire you to do X, Y, Z, you get paid for the stuff. How you're able to because you're very friendly, easy to get along, but some people out there are complicated, and especially musicians, So how you manage that kind of situation when?
Well, I think I'm probably complicated too, but it's not to put those complex issues on the other people you're dealing with.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, over this winter break from Roosevelt University, I've been putting a lot of the CDs and LPs and cassettes onto just on my iMusic, just so I have them, thousands of tracks. And
Yeah.
sometimes I go back, oh my God, who is this person? And, it's not only Pat Metheny and, like Kurt
Mm.
Elling and, Larry Coryell, but there's children's records. There's all, so sometimes you're a studio musician where you go in and they want you because they like your feel. They know that you're going to be able to read the music down, get the job done quickly. But you don't put necessarily, well, you put your personality, but maybe only a fraction percent of your personality. And then you have other really very improvisational music where you put 100% of your personality all the time. So sometimes, in other words, you work as a craftsman and sometimes you work as an artist. But as an artist, you want to have the craft together. And as a craftsman, you want to have the art in your craftsmanship.
Yeah. Big differences between being a band leader versus, being a band member playing with somebody else's. And you have, I assume, of course, obviously there are differences, but it's beauty in both, right? When you help, you're part of a trio. In your case, with playing
Well,
with this guy, the guy versus being your, Paul Wertico trio, right? Being on your own, right? Playing,
well, the
right?
difference, I mean, that's a great question or a great statement because I think when you're a sideman, if you're a responsible sideman, you do a 1,000% for everybody. But if someone makes a mistake, you might look and go, oh, the guy made a mistake. But if you're the leader and someone in your band makes a mistake, it reflects on you even more personally because then you're going, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
putting my name on this, and all of a sudden the bass player or whoever, the guitar player or sax player, they made a mistake. It's like a bigger dagger to the heart. You know what I mean?
Mm.
As
Yeah.
opposed to just looking and go, oh, whoops, And then as a drummer, you try to fix those things. So, if someone makes a mistake, it's not to go, aha, you made a mistake, but to actually maybe fix it cosmetically. You do something that mistake is actually like Miles Davis, with Herbie Hancock. Herbie was talking about playing a wrong, quote unquote, wrong chord, but then Miles would fix it with the next note. So, it's like with everything in life, we try to fix things to make everything work and not make people feel guilty. Hopefully, they'll learn from their mistakes. Sometimes a mistake is just a mistake is a mistake, but is it really a mistake? I was just talking to someone recently. I just did a duo record with Dave Becker that's going to be coming out, and he was talking. I guess Frank Gambale once said to Chick Corea, he wanted to fix a note on a record, and Chick said, "Well, why did you play it?" Which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so there's all these different ways of looking at stuff. But I think in general, I just think we want to, live a life that when we close our eyes at the end of the day or at the end of our lives, we feel like we've done something positive for the world. That's the way I kind of look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something positive to the world. You mentioned that we live in crazy time. Never mind United States, but in Ukraine, Russia, now we're going into 3 years, and
Yeah.
Palestine and Israel, and I don't know. Maybe we're doomed as a human society. We cannot get along, and whatever political views and people have different views about in this country and in the world, you know, uh, I don't know. I don't know what to think about as human being, man. With the borders and people killing one another, and I don't know. I don't want to get involved into more politics, but it's terrible, and I mean, it's sad. It's sad. That's the word that I'm looking for. A human being, after 2,000 years of Catholicism, Christianity, we do a lot of stupid stuff.
Well, it's like with music. I mean, I teach a lot of music history classes
Yeah.
because if you're going to play jazz or rock or blues or whatever, you really want to know where it came from. And sometimes you really realize that people don't always know the history of what they're trying to play. And it's the same with this. I mean, what you're talking about, unless you really know the history of humanity, we are kind of, unfortunately going to repeat those same things, you know?
Mm.
And so the idea is to uh, somehow make the evolution of the human species positive so that we can get along, but it takes a long time. I don't know if we'll ever get there. I mean, in our lifetimes, who knows? I mean, eventually we might, but you also, I don't want to stay on this too long but if you really look at species, you look at how we treat animals, how the planet goes. It's a lot more complicated than all that stuff too,
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where, we can try to clean up the planet, but if you don't pick up the garbage right next to you, which is our job, we can only do so much.
So much, right?
You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
just go, oh, okay, everything is fixed now. So
Yeah.
I think it's all our responsibilities to try to do what we can. And,
Sure.
it's the same thing with music, like, we're just trying to do what we can. Um,
Mm.
with Pat Metheny, we knew right away when the record was going to be released. I was, hundreds of thousands of people were going to hear it. But a lot of my favorite records, you know, people don't know because we might sell 1,000 or a couple thousand because they're not promoted the same way or whatever. It's everything is very complex, and I think
Mhm.
um, we just have to figure out a way that works for us individually
Mhm.
that makes it work so that we can do what we need to do, but at the
Mhm.
same time, also hopefully kind of make other people around us succeed too.
Absolutely. I told you before that I grew up in a family that music was important. I'm very glad that I was able to, that I was born there. And my music, I don't play an instrument. I have no interest in playing this instrument. I don't know how to read music, but music has given me so much satisfaction in my life. And I'm very grateful for my dad that he began playing 70 RPM and 33 RPM, 60 years ago. And music is a beautiful thing, man. So
Well,
hopefully,
to go along with what you just said, Zakir Hussain just died, a few days ago. And there was a really beautiful thing where someone asked him, like, why music? Why is it important? And he went into this explanation as that music can and art in general, but music can bring up people's spirits, you know what I mean? As
yeah,
opposed to just think about money or politics or fame. Music and art can make people, and I know this firsthand. I mean, even on the road, sometimes, say with Pat, we'd be exhausted, and I'd put on a record that I loved, and the next thing I know, I had more energy again. So
yeah,
that's the thing. A lot of times, it's music is not only about theory and all the things that people like think about like as entertainment, but it's also a spiritually lifting thing.
absolutely, man.
Yeah,
So, yeah, absolutely. And being on the road, you went with Pat for many years, and it's tough to be on the road. People don't understand that, I'm going to a gig, whatever,
yeah.
in downtown Chicago to see you with your trio, right? And I pay money and I arrive on time on 7:30 or whatever, and I expect you to deliver the best of the best, to be the best of your life. And when you went past, you went to bed about 12 or 1. You need to wake up early, catch a flight, take the bus, go from city to city. Perhaps you didn't have a good night's sleep and this and that. But I'm expecting you to deliver the best concert of your life at 7:30 p.m., right? And you need to rehearse, and then do you do the same thing the next day and the next day, and it's very difficult to be a musician. And plus your family is in a different country, a different city, and you don't see a loved one for 3 months or whatever. And yeah, the money is good, but at the beginning it wasn't that good, but then it's tough to be on the road, and so it's
Well, when you're younger, it's great to go, oh my God, I'm going to go to this country or this continent. Um, I mean, I still travel, but not like that. I mean, I think that's one reason I love teaching at the
Cool.
university is because not only can I inspire
Cool.
really talented students, many of which who have gone on to have great careers, but then
Yeah,
I can be home and have dinner with my family at night.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing, it used to be different in the old days. I mean, in the old days, you could get on a plane, but your tour manager would check everybody in, and you could get to the airport 5 minutes before the plane took off, and boom, you're on. Now you have to get there early. You don't know if the plane's going to be on time or canceled. It's not as easy as it was in many respects, but that's just the way it is. I mean, if you think about the old days, like say I mentioned Duke Ellington earlier, in the old days, Duke Ellington would have to go on a boat and travel 2 weeks plus to get to Europe and then
yeah.
play a concert and then 2.5 weeks to get back on a boat. So, so it's always really easy to complain about things, but in many ways, we have it pretty easy.
Yeah,
We have air conditioning, we have heat in the hotels. Nowadays, I mean, I always tell my students this. In the old days, you would go to the hotel and you want to call your wife. So you're in Germany and now you've got to use the hotel phone, which is going to cost you a fortune. And
that's right.
it's also got that time lag. So you would go, "Hi, hi, how you doing?" "I'm fine." And it makes you feel like, uh-oh, what's happening? Because there was that time lag. Now
Sure, sure.
we see each other and talk in real time. So, I mean, there's so many things that are more beneficial too. I think always have to look at the positive and the negative, see what we can do about the quote unquote negative, but also appreciate that, many things are so much better than they used to be, even though romantically speaking about like, oh, the old times must have been so great. Well, they were, but they weren't too.
That's right. That's right. I was looking at your background that, man, you are an associate professor of jazz studies at Roosevelt University, the Chicago College of Performing Arts. Man, that's good for you, man. Good for you, man. That's a very good school. I'm quite sure it's a very good program. And what you look back in your life, Paul, and you see, well, you were taught by a lot of great people, and now you're teaching all the young kids in the early 20s or mid 20s, where must bring you a lot of satisfaction to do that. What people did for you, right? And now you're doing for them and so on. So forth. It's I'm quite sure it's a great to be a professor, especially at that school, teaching the stuff that you love the most. So
Yeah, and it's a relay race. Life is a relay race. So we pass on the
that's right.
on to keep going. And I think the teachers that I had, allowed me to be me. And that's the way I teach. I mean, I look at every student and I go, okay, I'm going to make that student hopefully become the best of what they want to be, as opposed to just what I think they should all be. And so
Mm.
all my students sound different because they all are different. And I just help them be able to realize who they are and give them the tools but also the inspiration and everything to make them the best that they can be in their own eyes, as well as the grade or whatever.
Yeah. And then I imagine that at the end of the semester, they need to, I don't know, finals or the equivalent. All these kids that are, I'm doing a master degree or bachelor music with you, they play in band, they play during the weekend, and you as a teacher could attend to see them. And it's a beautiful thing too.
Yeah, it's like
See,
having your own. It's like, I mean, we have one daughter who just got married recently and is very, doing well. I mean,
yeah,
unbelievably well. But then the students are also like your own kids too,
kids, right?
and then you help them along with their lives.
Yeah, good for you. You did have like a radio show some years ago, right?
Oh,
Like
I did.
years and 2010 to 12, 2012, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I mean, that's a funny story too. There was WNUA, which was a smooth jazz station here in Chicago, very, very popular. I mean, Ramsey Lewis had a show and everything. when they kind of, I don't know, the station kind of changed and they became something else. And all of a sudden they asked me if I wanted to have a radio show. And I said, well, sure, but I don't want to play smooth jazz. I want to play my kind of music. So they said, sure. And so for 2 years, I had Paul Wertico's Wild World of Jazz,
All
where I
right.
would play Louis Armstrong to Captain Beefheart. I would play all kind of stuff. And it was really a lot of fun. We did it all in my house. I have a studio, and we would just do the shows, and it was fun for me because not only did I get a chance to hopefully expose music to people that might have never heard that kind of wide range of music, but even for me, I kind of learned to speak better because the first time I heard myself talk that way, I was, oh my God, I'm slurring my words or I'm, speaking too fast so I can't articulate properly or finish my thoughts. So, because my mind works so fast, I mean, it's
Mm.
weird. I mean, my mind is going like 1,000 miles per hour on multiple levels all the time. So to get the speech out sometimes can be difficult. I guess make it work so that I was able to keep my mind flowing, but also articulate what I was trying to say at the moment, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I
It was
imagine
cool.
that, no, thank you. I imagine that, going your head going into another direction
Well,
and
you're breaking up. I'm
able
sorry.
to concentrate and so forth. That help you a lot I think there was a lag in the video for your Wi-Fi, but it's
Quiet for a
okay now.
second. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I mind that,
Uh, a second. There's a little lag.
yep,
Okay, good.
it's okay now. I mind that thinking that fast and your head going 1,000 miles an hour, right? It help you a lot as a musician because when you are
Oh,
sitting in the back, right? You need to see what the bass guy on your left and with Pat Metheny on the right and the Laos on the right hand side and Pedro Aznar was in the middle. You need to be an observer. You're in the back, but you need to coordinate and make coordinate and you need to think within seconds. This note, this coming out,
absolutely.
the intro is this, and so on and so forth. It's a lot of work. I'm very bad, have very bad memory. I
Well,
couldn't be a musician.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, I tell my students that too. You know, every musician has certain qualities. So, it could be the way you hear, how well you hear pitch, how fast your reflexes are, how well your mind can put things into order, so composing thoughts, into statements. There's so many things, and everybody's different. So, not everybody's going to be the fastest drummer. Not everybody's going to be the most versatile drummer. I mean, and that's actually for every instrument. So, what helps you make you into the best version of you? Because if you want to be something you're not, that's okay to try to do that, but why not also celebrate who we are individually? If that,
Sure.
and that's the way I've always looked at it.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. I was reading an interview that you
Yeah.
did, I think last year, that you've been compared as an impressionist painter. You have been called an inspired madman as well.
It's
Which
probably
is, I
true.
don't know. What's your take on that in those
Oh, I'm
statements?
sure if you ask my wife, I'm sure she'll say I'm an inspired madman,
Yeah, but you do well in your life, which is impressive. And I was also I noticed that some years ago you end up writing an instructional book. I think it's called Turn the Beat Around and
Right.
Driver's Guide to Playing Backbeat, and that's a beautiful thing as well. Not only that you can play, but you can write and sit down and develop that particular wood for that you could be used in school or for future generation. That's a great thing to do as well. So
Well, it's really funny about that. I've written, many, many articles, for
yeah.
many magazines over the years. And then someone, Michael Finkelstein, who was working at that time for Alfred Music, said, "Oh, you should write a book." And I was going to write a book about my personal philosophies. And then when I talked to Dave Black, who was with Alfred, he goes, "Well, we're looking for something different." So all of a sudden, I got this inspiration about playing the backbeat on instead of on beats 2 and 4, on beats 1 and 3, because no one has ever written about that ever since, actually. And so it took me about 2 years. I was very careful. I didn't want people to steal that idea. And it finally came out. I still think that a lot of people haven't explored that yet. Because a lot of, world music and music like reggae and stuff uses the 1 and 3 as the heavier beat, as does classical music, but everything is based on 2 and 4. The snare drum's always on 2 and 4 for most music,
Yeah.
and great, but why not reverse it, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So when that came out, it's done okay. I think it's still ahead of its time, and there's another publisher that wants me to write all these books. It's just a matter of me having enough time to do all these things, because a lot of stuff kind of comes out where it's great to, like even records. I have so many people ask me to do records, and I try to do as many things as I can, but I
Mm.
also want to live my life too. I really just don't want to be like a worker bee and just do stuff. I want to watch television with my wife. I want to have, I love to cook. I want to have a life too. So the balance is really what's important. And like that book, I mean, we'll see if it ever really catches on, and but that wasn't the point. The point was like just with music. I don't care if the music I play sells 1,000 copies or 1,000,000 copies. To me, it's I need to get it out. And that's the way I looked at that book.
I got you. Well, you could have retired. You have done well with your life, and but you keep on going. You keep on going. You keep on going. What's the motivation?
Oh no, I mean, retire to what? You know what I mean? I mean, my life allows me to do all the things I love to do and help other people, and I still get to travel, and I get to
Mm.
pay the bills. And to retire, I mean, I'll be 72 like in about a week. I still feel like I'm 18. So
Yeah.
when I think of retire, I don't know what that would even mean. I mean, it might allow me to write books, or it might allow me to do a few things because, school and everything takes up time and energy, but that also feeds my passions too. So, I mean, retirement, I think if you work a gig that you hate, well, sure, you want to like get away from that and enjoy the time on the planet. But I don't feel like my time on the planet is limited by what I'm doing. I really feel like everything I'm doing is still has the same motivation and passion as it did when I was a kid.
That's good for you, man. You go to Italy a lot, right?
I love it. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, you love Italy. They love you.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about, our daughter and her husband got married there. That was like the greatest. I mean, that was a wedding that looked like it was a billionaire's wedding. I mean, everything was perfect. The weather was perfect. The,
Yeah.
the you know, the planner did the most amazing jobs. Our friend, I mean, it was just,
Everything work out well. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of one of the things where you kind of look at your life and you go, am I doing okay? Am I successful or not? I mean, I hate that word, but I go, yeah, I mean, I might not be a billionaire or whatever, but man, my life
Mm.
has been very blessed, and hopefully I can pass it on to people. And what else is there,
Yeah. No, I was looking at absolutely. You have well. You're very humble. You have done well. 7 Grammy Award, Chicago of the Year, Fusion Drama of the Year, Lifetime Achievement Award. Chicago Midwest Emmy Award, Independent Music Award, and not too bad, huh? Not too bad
Yeah, not too bad.
for a kid that gets his drum when he was 14 or 15. No, it's amazing that you learn on your own. It's
Yeah.
very difficult for me to really. I'm serious. It's a serious question. I know you're very humble, Paul, but you did everything on your own. It's you didn't have teachers, and you were hitting the pillow. Learn. Have to play with the drum in your hand, and it's amazing, man.
I I mean,
Good for
seriously,
you, man.
thanks. I
Good for
mean,
you, man.
I don't even know what to say. I just feel really very lucky and blessed and fortunate and all that. And, I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say. It's still like kind of a dream a lot of times. Like I was saying, with all those thousands of songs I played on and all those hundreds of records, I go, who is this person? It's almost like I'm living a life that I know I'm here and I know where I want to go as far as like just moving forward. But when I look at back at my thing, it's almost like something else was playing me. It's like, it wasn't a conscious thing. And I think if you can live your life where you're connected to the universe, and it sounds very eclectic and spiritual or whatever, but I think, everything is out there for us. And hopefully, if we're lucky enough that we can find the things that really make us vibrate the way we want to vibrate and do what we need to do, then you've won the lottery. You've won the life's lottery in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Good for you, man. I've been very blessed in my life as well. So,
Yeah.
we're very lucky, and it's United States with all the problem and craziness, still the best country in the world. You can go to any galaxy out there, you will never find another American. So I'm the American dream alive. So you need to find what you like. Hopefully, be good at it. Make a living, raise a family, and be happy. And do the right thing in life. And you have done it. I have done it. And it's a beautiful thing, man. Talking about music in general,
Yeah.
First Circle is 1984, so it's a 4-year anniversary. Uh, for me, not only is, in my humble opinion, the very best of Pat Metheny Group, but that particular record is in my probably top 50.
Mm.
My music collection is about 15,000 between
Oh,
five CD, vinyl, Blu-ray. I'm doing this from the living room, but I have floors of Dolby Atmos, stereo, and a bunch of stuff. As I told you before, Paul, music is a very important part of my life. I listen to music on a minimal 2-3 hours a day, right? Some days I work from home, other days go to the office. But when I drive to the office, I take 2 CDs, one on the way, and then going back, and I keep on buying a lot of music. I go to a lot of concerts I support. I don't. I listen to Spotify usually, but I feel like I'm ripping off, musicians because they don't get it better. So I buy a lot of stuff, and I buy to Bandcamp, and I help be a Patreon because music is a beautiful thing, and that particular album is amazing, man. For me, it's, as I say, not only that, of course, yeah, I'm biased. I like Pandefini, but it does that an amazing album 4 years ago with Pat Metheny, with Lyle Mills, Steve Rodney, and Pedro Aznar. You remember making the record? I think you guys went to a studio for like 3 or 4 days, and then you guys put it together.
yeah,
Yeah,
we were in the power station. I mean, one
yeah.
thing, thank God, I've got an amazing memory. I mean, I can remember everything about everything. I think I've got like a kind of a photographic memory. So I remember all that stuff, you
Hmm.
know. And yeah, unlike the later records that, took months and months because we had the budget to go and do a recording in 6 months. I mean, that record was done in a couple days. And it was just, yeah, I mean, again, what can I say? Just lucky to, be involved in so many great projects that now are thought of as historic records. Because, when you do a record, you just try to play the best you can on a record. You have no idea what
Yeah.
it's going to be or whatever. But, when people write to me and they go, oh my God. I mean, even, with my new cymbals, the Vertical Ride that Dream Cymbals make, all these
Well,
people writing me, oh my God, you got me into flat rides with Pat Metheny when I saw this show in London
yeah.
or whatever. I'm going, oh my God. So that's another thing is that a lot of times we don't really know what we're how we're going to affect people out there. We're just doing what we do, you know,
Yeah.
and just might be just playing the best you can on a track and responding the best way you can. And then all of a sudden it goes into a thing, whether it's an LP or a cassette or a vinyl or, CD or whatever. And all of a sudden people around the world hear it and it changes their lives. I mean, it's pretty amazing the kind
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
You,
And the other thing you were mentioning about like with Spotify, I'm not going to go there, but um, CDs and LPs sound so much better than streaming.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and see the one of the sad things about today's music is that kids will listen, with the little earbuds on the train, and they hear a sound, but they don't feel the way things were mixed and mastered to like
Mm,
have this three-dimensional impact,
mm,
which is not only the sound of
mm,
it, but also the way we feel that we want to communicate, It's the difference between you and I talking, texting, or emailing each other, or Zooming each other, or seeing each other live. Those are different things because
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and so much of the streaming thing is more like a text or an email. It just goes out, but it doesn't have all those beautiful elements of seeing a person talk, or when you're live, being able to touch somebody and go, yeah, man. So
Mm,
we've lost a lot of I mean, we've lost a lot of the elements that were made that some music so special, you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Say.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get
So,
it back. I don't know. I mean, you know, people sold all their LPs back in the day for CDs. Now, then people sold all their CDs to go to streaming, and now people are buying LPs and they're buying CDs again. What can
yeah,
I say?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So you did really at the time when you guys finished that album in the power station after 3 days, you guys didn't know that, of course, you don't know for sure the repercussion that a particular uh, album will make in 40 years later. But you, of course, you were happy, and the engineer was happy. Okay, let's master it. Okay, let's take a couple of days off, and we'll see you guys each other in Wednesday, whatever.
Right.
So that I have to say before that record, and for me and to many people in the world, and have make a big impact, man.
Thanks.
Uh,
Yeah, you never know. I
no,
think, like I said, just because it was that group and the group had already had a following, we knew that we would have uh, more people would hear it than when you just make a record here and then you don't know um,
but
who's going to buy it or who's going to hear it, or if you have the money and the ability to do a follow-up tour. Because, back in the day, that's what you did. You made a
yeah,
recording, you toured on the recording, you sold the recording, which led to the ability to make another recording. Nowadays, people make records and they put it out on, YouTube or wherever they can make it, but they might not have the ability to play live. And if they play live, what are they selling? Because people aren't buying like product. They're not buying mechanical royalties. That means it's a thing that you're getting paid by. So people go out and they sell t-shirts or hats or something now too. It's just a different world. But
yeah,
again, man, it's always been different. I mean, I tell my students in a lot of the classes I teach, just imagine back in the day of, say, Mozart or Bach or something, where, you were going to go hear a concert by, Bach or Liszt or something, and you'd have to get on your buggy with a horse and go 10 days in the silence on these roads. And then you heard a concert, and then you have to go 10 days back and relive that concert in your head. Now we just push a button, there it is, there's another one, everything has changed.
I
So
believe, yeah.
yeah,
Especially the younger generation, right? They can listen to a CD in a minute, 10 seconds next, 10 seconds next, 10
yep,
seconds next.
yep,
As opposed to you and I buying the record, seeing the pictures, the lyrics, and it's it's a obviously different world together. I don't know if better or worse, but
Who knows? I mean, really, I mean,
no,
it
who am
is
I?
what it is
It is
because
what it is. So,
I told my wife, I mean, say for instance, I love trains, I love trains.
mhm.
So, steam locomotives. I love like steam locomotives. I've driven them and everything. Now, it's beautiful, but steam locomotive, it polluted, all that black smoke coming out. It was the railroads were responsible to going west and the annihilation of, American Indians and the buffalo. So you have to take the good with the bad sometimes, if that makes sense. You
Yeah,
know,
certainly. Yeah.
yeah, and so for some people, a certain type of music is like the greatest thing they ever heard, and to other people, it's just noise.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's our responsibility to do the best we can uh, to be ourselves, but also have a realization of how ourselves can actually work within the framework of the bigger picture.
I got you. I got you. I was looking at Pat Metheny discography and the record that you were in at the time, and First Circle, Steve Likes Talking, Letter from Home, We Live Here, Quartet, Imaginary Day. Any particular album, if you will, is any or particular period year is was more meaningful to you than other or
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's certain songs I might like,
yeah.
more than others. But no, I mean, it was just a journey. If you think about art as a journey in life, those records were just a journey in the life of that band.
Mm.
That's all it is. And
Yeah.
then it goes to something else. So it's like, say Pat and I, we had a relationship from First Circle through whatever, what, Imaginary Day or whatever.
Imaginary Day, yeah.
And then we split off, and then he has a different drummer, and I have a different band, and it's just a natural progress of life, you know. And I think the main thing is that if we're lucky enough to find those relationships that are so beautiful, so that relationship with Pat, even though it might not be a perfect relationship for everything I wanted to do all the time, it was an incredible relationship because we made great music together. So both of us were able to, you know, benefit from that time and then go on to different things. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. I met Lyle Mays.
Yeah.
I talked briefly, like about 5, 7 minutes with him, I don't know, so many years ago. And I noticed that he, independent of being a musician, right? Independent of the music, he was like a very gifted individual, very
Oh,
smart. Within a couple of minutes, I knew, oh, this guy is, it's a Harvard kid or MIT, no kid, but person. Because I asked him, we were talking about, I don't remember, that was like 20 years ago after a gig, and I knew right away, man, this person not only he's a great musician, of course, he's part of Pat Metheny, and I like Pat Metheny, but he's a very smart individual as well. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
He was a genius, not
yeah,
just musically, but just overall. I mean,
yeah,
there's certain people, and you don't meet, that many of them. I mean, these
yeah,
are talented people, but people of that kind of IQ. I don't know if I want to say IQ because IQ can sometimes be looked upon as a measurement of standard intelligence. I kind
sure,
of look upon it as just being gifted in so many ways.
yeah,
The guy could play chess better than anybody, pool better than anybody. He could juggle better than anybody. He could,
wow,
just one of those kind of things that you go, oh my God, this person has all these gifts, you know.
mhm,
And music was one of them. And he was a great guy, I mean, complicated as most people of that kind of brilliance are, but in a good way. I mean, a good soul, a good person, What
yeah,
he did added positivity to the planet, you know.
yeah, absolutely. No, he was within 5 minutes. I knew the guy was very, very bright,
Oh yeah.
and I think this is my opinion. I think when you were playing with Pat, you couldn't. How can I say this to sounds polite? You couldn't express yourself as a great drummer as a great drummer that you are, I mean, people know you because the type of music you were playing, fusion, with Pat, kind of fusion music, and people could hear the cymbals a lot, but not that much the snare drum on the toms. And you were you are a great drummer, but of course you were within the restriction of a band, right? It so happened to be Pat Metheny, could have been Supertramp, it could have been Peter Gabriel, but you were in that box, but you are a lot. I studied your career. I have a lot of record for you. You have fed me over the years and so forth. And you are a great drummer. And of course, people associate, this is Paul is like a fusion type of guy, jazz, soft jazz, but you could have done very well in a rock and roll type of band. If my point makes sense, so for
Oh, it
people.
makes total sense. I mean, sometimes I do feel a little frustrated that people think of me as like the happy cymbal guy that
That's right.
never plays a bass drum or something. You
Uh,
know, but that's not, I mean, that's what it was for what it was, but because it was more popular than many other things I did, then you get typecast. It's just the same, like I always say, like with an actor, if someone's, gets in a TV show or a movie that's real popular, that person's always going to be thought about as that type of actor, as opposed to the other things that they can do. But, it's better than not ever being recognized, because there's great actors everywhere. So let me finish my point. So, yeah, I could have been many other things. And if anyone wants to explore the other things I did or keep on doing for that matter, I mean, you saw uh, the Lyle Mays thing when he was in my band where we're playing Time Impulse.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Lyle's playing like free on that one, basically,
Yeah.
and the sax player, Rich Corpolongo's a genius. He's like 80 years old. We're still friends, but no, a lot of people don't know who he is because he never got those kind of, record that would make him popular or at least recognized by a bigger audience. I mean, it's really the luck of the draw. It's like winning a lottery in some ways for talented musicians to be able to get in a band that's going to all of a sudden break through and sell a lot of records so a lot of people know who they are.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, so sometimes it's frustrating for me to think that people only think of me as one way, but at least I think for me, people always think of me as a musical drummer, and that's good too, because if people think of you as the fastest drummer in town, then that's kind of stupid because there's always going to be a faster drummer, as technicians get faster. But if you think about a musical thing, that just means that you played good music for when you played it. And I think that's very lucky.
Absolutely. And I think Pat Metheny at the time was using a sequencer, and it when a sequencer, is in the background, do you have a little bit of room to improvise, like a 5% left or right to do more thing, or you are very restricted on what, because you cannot go fast. I suppose you cannot go faster or slower, but you can be a little ahead. Usually the drummer is like, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but a second or 2 seconds ahead of everybody, right? In a
That
particular.
is that is second. I mean, we're talking about milliseconds.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when you're playing with a sequence, I'm here, I'll explain to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you play in real time, people can breathe together. So things can go up and down a little bit in the tempo, even though you want the tempo overall to stay usually the same. If you play with a click track,
Yeah.
and you're playing, and you can play dead center or you can play in back or in front and move it around,
Yeah.
if you're listening to the other musicians, but the click track disappears. So then people only hear your track with the other musicians, okay? And then you have the sequencer, where if the sequencer is in the final track, you have to stay with the sequencer because if you drift too far from the sequencer, you're going to sound like you're rushing or dragging. So the main thing with the sequencer then, which we used on probably 70, 80% of the even live stuff, is that you can micro improvise, you can change things, but they
Mm,
always have to stay in time, you know. And the other
mm,
thing is that, say, if you're playing live and the sequencer is set to like three courses of guitar, two of, keyboards, no matter if it's a good night or bad night, it's going to be three and two. It's not like when you play live, you might say, "Oh, this is a great night. Oh, now we're going to have five guitar courses or 20 guitar courses."
mm.
So, it's like problem solving in real time. And I tell my students all the time, when they talk about, like, or their parents say, why should they get a jazz degree? Well, when you think about music, it is about problem solving. When you play jazz, it's living in the moment. And if you're in the music business, it's living in the moment too, because things change. So you become good at problem solving. And then when you play with a sequencer, you're still problem solving, but at a little more of a micro level than just saying, oh, now I can stop or now I can speed up and double time. And, it doesn't always work. So for me, I like it all. I mean, if you look at all the hundreds of records I'm on, they go from click tracks to no click tracks to sequencers to arrangements to 100% spontaneously composed. It's all fun. It all makes life fulfilling.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, it's a very good explanation. Recently, well, no, not so recent, but the Paul Wertico Trio, we just released a new CD, celebrate the trio's 25th, 26th anniversary, and that's a great CD, man. That I listen to your music. I really, you have played with so many people, so it's hard to pick do an interview with this period, that period. So I kind of pick stuff that are appealing to me. But the Paul Vertigo trio is a very good stuff, and as opposed to a quartet or playing with more people. And you
Well,
you yeah,
no,
go
it's
ahead.
cool. I mean, thanks for doing all the research. It
No problem.
makes me really happy because then we can talk about things that I want to talk about too.
Sure,
Now,
sure.
and trio is fun because, you know, if you do a solo, then you're 100% of everything. If you
Yeah,
do a duo, then, it's 50%, or 40, 60 or whatever. If you do a trio, it's what, 33 and a third, or, it moves around. The more people you have, the more stuff you have to deal with. So I've got two trios. I've got the Paul Wertico trio based in Chicago, which is a guitar, bass, drums trio, which John Mulder usually plays guitar, and then bass would be Eric Hochberg or Larry Gray. And then there's the Italian trio, which is piano, bass, and drums. So that's
yeah.
Fabrizio Moncada, Gianmarco Scalia, and myself. And yeah, I mean, all of it just allows me to play and enjoy the conversation with people I like to converse with. And the other thing which is interesting, like Word of Cocaine and Gray, for instance, you know, it's I don't always like to necessarily have to play. If I'm playing jazz, does it have to be with just jazz players? I like people that bring in different things. So, like, for instance, Fabrizio Moncada is an incredible piano player, but he comes out of tango just as much as he comes out of jazz. Or David Kane comes out of like more like, I guess, just compositional elements than opposed to like jazz, and that brings out certain elements of the music that allows me to kind of go, oh yeah, we don't have to necessarily be stuck in a genre, not that
Mm,
I ever would anyway, but it allows the music we're playing to be more open to all these different sounds as
mm,
opposed to genre specific things.
mm. Absolutely. And also, I want to say something obvious, but it with music, right? You can be playing a gig with the trio or in Tokyo where perhaps people don't speak English, or in South America where people speak Spanish, and they don't have to speak the language. They can listen, to great music, right? Man, this is great. It's a lot of work, put it together, be synchronized, and so on and so forth. And the guys look to one another, they don't talk, and they go to the next track. And or you do your solo, then the bass player start behind you, after you, or whatever. It's a language on its own, it's a beautiful thing, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it is really like a universal language.
right, yeah.
And even if we don't speak it the same way, so if you do play with someone from a different country that might have different influences, when you play, you're able to, kind of just communicate again. I feel the same way even like when I tour. Unfortunately, I'm not multilingual. That's not one of my talents. So, but I've never had a problem communicating with anyone from any country because for one thing, you go, I don't know, so you say, I'm sorry, I don't speak your language. And then the next thing you know, they might speak your language, which is great, and many other countries speak English. But even if they don't, there's somehow you can maneuver each other to go,
Mm.
okay, yeah, okay, now we can work together. I mean, it's really not that hard. That's the thing. I mean, people make it so like this is this and this is that. God, it just drives me crazy about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, some of the new records. I mean, I'm sure you're going to talk about that, but like
Sure.
the Marvin record, Marbinico, you
Yeah,
know,
I will call in. Yeah,
yeah, you know, that's like one of my favorite records I've ever done. There's no drum fills on it or anything. It's
right,
just a
yeah.
beautiful record. But then sometimes I've seen a couple reviews, which have been positive reviews, but someone will say, "Oh, Marvin, who usually plays more like hardcore, like rock, fusion, jazz rock, now they're playing straight ahead jazz." That's not straight ahead jazz. There's no straight ahead bing ding a ding on that record. But people go, oh, it's not loud, it's not complicated time signatures. It must be straight ahead jazz. So many people they don't understand like a lot of stuff. I mean, and unless you go back in history and really kind of understand where things come from, who the great players were in those different genres and how they even morphed into creating new genres, sometimes I go, oh my God, just because someone can say something on the internet doesn't mean anything now, because they
Absolutely. Right.
really, even if their best intentions are great, a lot of times especially young people or people that are really stuck in like heavy metal or fusion or jazz or whatever, they kind of don't understand these other things. And unless they listen to all those other things, what they say is going to be very peculiar, and you're going to go, "Oh my God, thank you for the nice compliment, but that's not what it was at all." You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing you said, or one of the first things you said in this interview, you're not a musician, so you opened yourself up to the fact that you won't only understand what you understand because of what you understand, but you have 15,000, LPs. So
Yeah.
then, okay, well, then this guy now has more of this, as opposed to someone goes, oh, I only listen to this music, and you must be this because you're not
Sure. Sure.
what I listen to. And
Sure.
then, oh man, come on.
Sure. I listen to jazz, to rock, to pop. I have film score, soundtrack, at least 700, and opera. There's music I don't like that much, but on a day-to-day, on a weekly basis, I listen to a lot of different things. I'm always buying, I'm always looking for something that is appealing to me. Either the music, I like it, it's appealing to me, it resonates with me, or if I don't, but I'm always given to give it a try. And of course, I have my favorite, right? The Led Zeppelin, the Pink Floyd, the Coldplay, and
Mhm.
Pat Metheny, and many, many, many others. I like. I'm drawn to the stuff, but I listen to a lot of different things. Some weeks when I drive to work, I take CDs that I bought the week before, the week after, whatever, because I have to catch up with the time I buy, and it's great. I mean, I listen to every record with an open mind, and man, the drummer probably wasn't that great, or the guitar player wasn't that great as compared to other stuff. But I try to take everything on its own merits, right? Not to compare, because then it's boring, right? I mean, you need to evolve as a musician. All the Genesis album, they are different to one another. Otherwise, they're doing the same thing seven times. People would say, "Man, this band used to be that great, but now they're doing this kind of music." Well, that was 10 years ago. And it's a new member. Somebody left. They hired somebody else. It's a new singer or whatever, and it's great music. It's different, but it's great. And they need to be different. Otherwise, what's the point of a writer writing the same book every 3 years again, the same story? So I don't know. We need to be happy and don't put much attention to some of the critics. But the album is very good. The other stuff that I really like, besides Marvin Nico, is the newly released Congruence. That actually
Oh,
that was recorded, I think, in the 80s, right?
yeah,
With Johnny, with Mike and Eric. I didn't know how to explain with that. And I said, man, it's not bad.
well,
Only a couple track, but yeah.
what's funny about that is that, there's more cuts of different songs. I mean, but Howard just decided to put that out. And yeah, that was just done one night in the 1980s. Johnny Frigo was this amazing violinist. So yesterday he would have been 108. Okay. But as a bass player, he was a session bass player. I remember reading, I don't know if it's true anymore, but he was like the most recorded bass players on jingles. He did something like 20,000 jingles. I mean, the guy was just this genius, a great musician. He had a great family. He had a son, Rick Frigo, who was a great drummer who's passed. And then Howard, I've been playing with him for, since the 70s. I'm so glad he finally put that out because if you listen to that, we're really straight ahead. I mean, it's very,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it could be like, Kenny Clark playing drums or something. I mean,
Mm.
it's like it swings, but we're not trying to do anything other than just make that music successful in what it was. We're not trying to go into 5/4 or go into some like Afro-Cuban groove, right? It just swings, which is beautiful. So that's another side that a lot of people might not know that I can do, because with Pat, we never really played a lot of like straight ahead stuff. I mean, we did with the special quintet or special quartet rather, and a couple things, but most people don't even know that we did all that kind of stuff too. So people know me from the Pat Metheny Group as being sort of this, I don't know, versatile, but more symbolist kind of drummer that could play in all these odd meters and everything. But no, I love playing straight ahead rock. I love playing straight ahead jazz. I love playing, I love playing everything, man, because it's just an expression of the moment. And if you're playing with great musicians, it's like a beautiful experience that you'll always treasure that you were lucky enough to be able to participate in.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Feel free to elaborate on your Bliss vertical ride, flat ride, actually, the 20 inches and the 22. How that came about. I mean, that's an honor for somebody, a company or, an enterprise create like a special, symbol for you. And I saw a couple of videos that you did on YouTube and where you're, playing different things. And it's amazing, man. It's amazing. It's such an honor, man, for you to have your own.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, because, I had like, my signature stick with ProMark and, the
Mm.
tubes and stuff. But, I always wanted to have a signature flat ride because I'm known for my flat ride playing.
Right. Yeah.
And the other company, like, damn, no, we don't do that. So what happened, I got with Bliss back, several years ago before COVID. And I didn't even know much about dream cymbals. I mean, seriously, I was in Italy. I had to come home and then go to Minneapolis for a clinic and then go back to Italy. So I was doing this clinic and somebody from Dream Cymbals was, oh, maybe you should try our cymbals because I didn't have any cymbals with me because I was between cymbal companies. And he
Okay.
goes, and I played them and I went, oh my God, I love these things. So I got to be an endorser and I talked to Andy Morris, who owns Dream Cymbals. I said, man, I want to have a signature flat ride. So we worked together to develop this thing.
Mm.
And, and then COVID hits, of course, So then now that COVID has been gone, we've been able to keep going. And so I was able to get a cymbal that not only sounds and records great, but feels great when you play, because that's some cymbals sound great, but they're more like playing on a piece of metal. These things, what are they called? They're called the bronze 20, which means that they're 80% bronze, I think 20% tin and other metals. So
Yeah.
that's like the highest alloy combination that you can get. So they're like, that's why they cost what they do. But they are a dream for me. I seriously, on all these records, I've just used them on like 7 new records. And the funny thing is, the ones I used on these records were the rejects. Not the ones that we prototyped from, but the ones that we didn't prototype from, because
Really?
of them were so incredible. Yeah. And so I'm just thrilled to have these things out. I think anybody that wants to have a flat ride, you should buy these. And the other thing I explained to how to play a flat ride, or even a cymbal in general, but a flat ride specifically, because I was just at the Percussive Art Society convention called PASIC in November, and that's where we were premiering these cymbals. And people would sometimes come up and they go ding, 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 and they go crash, crash, crash. Oh, okay. And I'm going, no, that's two sounds, man. And then I showed them how to dance on the cymbal.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh my God, really? You can do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's how you play a cymbal. And if you have a good cymbal like these Wertico rides, you can play all this incredible stuff on there." And they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." So again, goes back to, what you're exposed to, what your knowledge is of not only history but of technique. Because, the old drummers, they used to dance, they used to tap dance on the drums,
That's
and
right.
then the fusion drummers, rock, they hit the drums, they, pound on them. And so if you pound on something, you get a certain sound or a certain couple sounds. But if you dance on them, you get like so many different colors and sounds. So a lot of it is really about, you know, you know, a cymbal is a piece of metal, it's just, and you're hitting it with a piece of wood. So what can you get out of this thing? It's up to you to really be able to get it to sound something, it's
Mm.
the cymbal itself that has the potential to do all these things, but
Yeah.
unless you know how to release the potential of this piece of metal, then you have to find out how to do it. And if you don't, then you're going to think, oh, it's just a piece of metal. I'll hit another piece of metal instead.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen many drummers and videos about drumming in general, and nowadays many drumming play the sticks too hard. If I'm saying this correctly, how are you able to control what works for you? Is no, because otherwise, if you do that for 50 years or whatever happened to Phil Collins, right, of hitting the ground so hard, and I'm quite sure, in your elbow and in the wrist, or in the back, play at all when you, if you do it once a week versus, 50 years or 55 years you've been playing drums, it makes a big difference, right? So it can have a lot of repercussion, and then you end up going to physical therapy, a chiropractor, and I imagine, right? So,
Great question. Yeah, I mean, what happened, if you look at the older drummers, they barely hold the sticks, and
yeah,
the stick is just, it's like, stick is a shock absorber.
that's right.
So if you hold the stick loose, you get this beautiful sound out of what you're hitting, and
Mm.
then you get no like shock down your tendons and everything. But a lot of these people, like rock drummers, they hold the sticks tight, or they
Yeah.
hit so hard and they're
Mm.
using such physicality that musically it sounds like, quadruple exclamation marks. It sounds like I'm talking, no, everything I'm talking is like this. There's no dynamics in it anymore.
Sure. Sure.
And physicality wise, it's going right up here and it's gonna blow out everything. So if you really know how to play, you see all these guys in their 80s or even 90s. You see Roy Haynes still playing, he just died, like last month. But these guys knew how to play the instrument. They knew how to touch the stick and let the stick do the work as opposed to pounding like a caveman. So
That's
like if you're a 20-year-old caveman, okay, fine. 30-year-old caveman, oh, maybe not so good. 70-year-old caveman, good luck,
yeah.
unless genetically you're able to do that, all that stuff is going to pile up. It's just like you look at sports, like you look at soccer or football, either
Yeah.
American football or regular football, these guys are incredible until later on they can't walk anymore, or their necks are messed up, or they've got concussions. You know,
Yeah.
that stuff, man, that's going to catch up with you. But if you play an instrument correctly, unless you hurt yourself doing something, you should be able to play. I still feel like I'm 18. I'm faster than ever. It's effortless for me to play. I don't
Good,
have physical
good for
therapy.
you. Good
Yeah,
for you. Yeah. I was listening to a great album from you, of course, yesterday, Paul Wertico with John Helliwell project. I
Hmm.
think they called the Barry session, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Man, that is great. This is very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I listened to it like two times.
Well, John Helliwell, I mean, he's going to be 80, coming up. And a lot of people know him from Supertramp. I mean, I
Well,
love Supertramp. Those songs are great. The lyrics are great. What he
mhm.
played on clarinet and sax is great. But he's a great jazz player. He's got a beautiful tone. Um, yeah, that band, I mean, that's how I started going to Italy so much. That's a really interesting story if you want to know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Once the internet started happening and I had email on internet, in 2008, all of a sudden I got this email from some guy named Ramondo Mellalupe. And he goes, Paul, I'm a big fan. I'm a guitar player. He was the owner of Ram Records. He goes, um, do you want to come and do a gig with John Helliwell, the sax player from Supertramp, and this bass player, Gianmarco Scalia? And I was like, sure. So I go over there. I brought my wife and daughter actually, and we did like a week of gigs. And I was thrilled. I'm thinking, oh my God, John Helliwell is from Supertramp. I love Supertramp. And then that became these friendships, you know, that are still around. I mean, so Ramondo is this great guitar player that's also a monarch in Italy. I mean, he's got like this mansion with a golf course, and I mean, it's like it opened up all these doors for me to meet not only Gianmarco, but also then Fabrizio Moccata, and then all these other people in Italy that are calling me and having me do records. So, I got rather than just say, I don't know who this guy is. Oh, I'm gonna erase this email. I wrote back and I said, sure, give me more information. And that's the other thing is that so many times there's, life opens up these doors for you and you have to pick the right ones. And for one thing, you want to respect everybody. So if you don't want to do something, get back to them and say, I'm sorry, I can't do this or whatever.
Mm.
But then if you do accept things, you never know what's going to open up. It's an amazing Pandora's box of stuff that can actually be available to you if you're able to take advantage of them and be happy enough that it works out to the advantage of everybody, not only you, but to everyone.
Yeah. How difficult is to play with people that you never seen before with different type of music. Yeah, I know you from Supertron. I know you play some gig with that guy, and I know he, but it's five of you doing you say a week worth of gigs, 7 days in different cities in Italy, and how you do it? How you it's not that you have listened to music. Okay, send me all the track a couple weeks so I can learn my part and so on and so forth. Versus going there. Okay, let's have fun and within one afternoon, okay, you're doing your thing and Johnny doing his thing and so on and so forth. For me, it's like a mystery because I'm not a musician, so
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I always tell my students that the music plays you.
That's
So you
right.
don't
Oh, yeah.
necessarily have to come up with a part. I mean, sometimes, a song might need a part, but most of the music I play just needs me to interpret it as we go along, to be
Yeah.
a composer. So whether it's a composition and I'm putting my version of a composition in that composition, or if it's free improvisation, then it's free spontaneous composition. It's basically about just having a conversation with people, whether you know them or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's a language. That's basically, so it's not about, oh, I must do this, I have to do this. I mean, I guess for some music and some people that might have that specific way of thinking, they need to do that. They need to be comfortable and play the same thing over and over again. But there's times I've had to do that. But in general, for me, I've been lucky enough that just people call me, not as a drummer, but to have me. They want Paul Wertico on drums.
Yeah.
And then I bring my personality and I go with their personalities. Next thing you know, we're dancing together.
That's right. That's right. Dancing to the music. Also.
Yeah.
The drums without boundaries.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm quite sure you must have many stories about that. I
Oh, my.
found it very weird at the beginning. So I listened to it a couple of times, three times, some tracks, and it started making sense. It's very different. Okay, it's very different for what I know you for, and I really like it. I dig it after two or three times. I was listening to that on Thursday when we spoke on the phone to coordinate the interview, and I really like it. And you must have many stories about that
Oh my.
particular.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole. I mean, I think Don Lombardi from Drum Workshop interviewed me. We talked about that for about a half hour, you
Which
know.
hasn't that.
Yeah. No, I mean that was a thing where, again, like with the Italian connections, one thing leads to another. So Gianmarco Scalia, the bass player, he wanted me to do a record with him with a guitar player and a vibe player. And we did. We just went over there for a day or two, and we came up with a really great record called Dynamics in Meditation. So the vibe player, Mirko Pendroti, he contacted me and he said, "Man, there's this really good percussion ensemble here called Ichos Percussion. We'd love to have you play with them." And I said, "Sure. I'll go to Italy. You call me now, I'm over there. I'll be over
Tomorrow
there
morning.
in a second." So, so all of a sudden, this thing is about, I'm going to go and play with these guys. And there's a couple live gigs. So they're calling it Alchimia Project, which means like gold project, featuring
Yeah.
Paul Wertico. And I'm like, fine. So I fly over to Italy and we do a couple trio gigs with Fabrizio Moccata and Gianmarco. And the next, like 3 days later, all of a sudden I go the northern of Italy and we're going to do this record. Okay. So I have no idea what this record even is. So I go over there and we end up at this really beautiful warehouse. They've got all these great instruments. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be fantastic. But we only have 3 days to record before my trio has to finish the rest of the tour. So we set up and I get really nice drum sounds. Everything's fine. And then we're going to record and we're all in the round. Now, this is a warehouse. So some of us are like 50 feet away and we start trying to play. And I'm thinking, how are we going to record? We've never played together before. If anyone makes a mistake or anything, then we're going to have to keep tracking because that's going to be a problem. So we start playing, and in my headphones, I'm hearing bloop, 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 bloop. So I'm going, oh no, it's the latency from the microphones. So I go, okay, this is impossible. We're never going to get this done. So as a producer, I say, okay, now we're going to record. I'm going to produce. So I said, we're going to take this individually. So there was a different guitar player than there was on Dynamics and Meditation. This guy, Alex Monk from England, great. So we try to record a song that first night because the engineer, who's sick, by the way, and also at Chimney Project, 5 people, one of them's got COVID, so he couldn't be there. So I'm thinking, how are we going to get this done? So
Wow.
So we finally record one track, click, isolation, great. And then we have to stop because the engineer has to stop after 8 hours of recording, which is like, here in the States, a lot of times we'll record for, 12 hours or, 16 hours. So the next day we go and record. Now, the trouble is that even though we're at this great hotel, fantastic hotel, it's like 105 degrees outside. And that night I wake up and my air conditioning is not working. And like, it's like 95 degrees in my room. I'm like sweating. It's like, oh, great. So I've got to get up. I get up, tell the hotel, can you fix the air conditioning? Fine. And we go and record some more tracks, and everything's going great. Now we only have like another day to record, basically. And
Mhm.
the guy said, "Oh, we need 60 minutes of music." And I'm going, "What? 60? How are we going to do this?" Because we've only recorded like maybe 40 minutes of music or 45 minutes of music. So anyway, we have to stop. But that night they play me their past recording with a John Cage piece, which is like third construction, which is 11 minutes long. So before that happens, I say, if we need more music, I've got 5 drum solos from my records. I'll have you guys improvise over that. So now I direct and everything. So now we're almost, at 50 minutes of music. Now that next night they fix my air conditioning, but I wake up and it's like, 50 degrees in my room and I'm sick. Now I don't know if I've got COVID or what. So that next day, I say, okay, you played me third construction. I'm just going to improvise over it. So, even though I don't even know it, I don't have no chart or anything. I said, I'll play a brush solo, hit record, and I'll solo or play within the track, which I do, first take. So now we have 60 minutes of music, but now I'm also really sick, which I found out later I did have COVID, by the way.
Wow.
But yeah, it was weird. I ended up doing the rest of the tour, but luckily I wore a mask the entire time and I was able to get home and everything was fine. So then I found out later that the label doesn't want to record or doesn't want to put out a couple things. One they think is um, one of it off of the Word of Cocaine and Gray record. They think it's electronic drums. I said, no, 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 it's just prepared drum sets. So they say, okay, that's fine, we'll use it. But then with the Cage piece, they were worried about getting publishing rights. So I said, well, let me contact the Cage people, which I do. And they said, well, send me the track and we'll see. And I sent it and they loved it. And they said, oh, just use it. So now we have 60 minutes of music, right? But now the guy at the label is going, well, we hate the title Alchimia Project. So give me some other titles. And I give him like 40 other titles, which is the one they use. And now all of a sudden, now it's my project. All of a sudden, now I'm not a guest artist thing. It is my project, you know. Then they send me some artwork. There were 3 covers, and I pick out the one I really liked. And next thing you know, it's like it comes out. And I really love that record. I think it's such a, it's one of those things because I love percussion ensembles. Glenn
Mhm.
Cochi from Wilco was one of my students who plays with percussion ensembles everywhere. And he was going, oh man, you should be playing with percussion ensembles all around the world with this. But unfortunately, the label didn't really promote this as much as it should have been, like I was saying. So you could have great records, but if no one hears it, then
That's
it's
right. Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
beautiful butterfly in the wind that no one sees. But that's how that came about, you know.
Yeah.
Isn't that a
Yeah.
crazy story? It's a great
That's-
story, and everybody's happy. I mean, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I love the way you're producing. You can, because I produce a lot, and I'm really good at producing when things are going weird. In other words, like if I have if I'm playing drums and the client is not a good singer or not a good, keyboard player, and we're playing his charts, I'm really good at fixing things to make it work.
Yeah. You need to have good managerial skill to
I
do
have
that.
great hair. Yeah, no,
Because
I
you
it
play
weird to
ball with
say, but yeah.
a lot of different people.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I mean,
middle,
music makes sense. Music makes sense to me. So I'm able to that's why I think I'm a good teacher too. I just got my evaluations 2 days ago, and so many people, oh, the best professor I've ever had. And I'm just doing what I do. But I think if your intention is to make everybody win, as opposed to just make you win or you sound good, then everybody's going to be happy with themselves as well as the overall project.
Sure. Looking back in your life, it's easy to look back and change things. But in general, there are people that you wish you have had the opportunity to play with, or if you were a different city at the time, instead of were born in Illinois and versus New York or Los Angeles or whatever. Any because you have played with so many people and you have done very well. Obviously, no regret, but everybody have their favorites, right? So, any project you wish you have the opportunity, or any band, or being a guest with
Yeah.
John, Peter, and Mary, or whatever the names happen to be.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know if I have like a bucket list of people now, because
Yeah.
I'm growing up. I'm playing with Mike Stern now, and I'm playing with Sheila Jordan, all these great. But I think from the past, I would have loved to play with Louis Armstrong.
Wow.
I would love to play with Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
That would. I mean, um, I'm trying to think like Cream, not Cream, but maybe. Um, let me think. Well, John Coltrane, I would love to have played with him, that would have been great. But and then like even I mean, I'd love to have played with the Who, you know, because the way I play, I kind of play like that. I mean, Keith
That's it. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more of an influence than John Bonham, for instance. I came out of trying to be a lead drummer, not even trying, just I think that way. You know, certain music you play with the bass player in the rhythm section, but a lot of times I play with the front end. I play with the soloists or the
Mm.
vocalist. I always want to know all the lyrics of every song I play with. That would have been fun. Um, but not too many people that I feel like I missed. Just a couple people that really I think musically really spoke to me. I mean, um, people that called me that I never got a chance to go because Pat wouldn't let me, or I just had problems with. I mean, Joe Lovano called me to play with him. Wayne Shorter, Freddie Hubbard. Um,
Wow.
you know, Charlie Hayden wanted me to go to Cuba, which I've never gone to. He wanted me to go, couldn't go. Russ Titleman's the great producer wanted me to do a track with like James Taylor and Milton Nascimento. Pat wouldn't let me go. I mean, there's a lot of things I ended up like not being able to do, unfortunately.
Mm.
But I'm not going to complain. I feel like I've won the lottery in
You
life.
have done well. Yeah. Any funny stories that you can tell our listeners with Pedro Aznar? I think you told me a couple.
Oh, Pedro. Well, it's funny.
Pedro is a very nice guy, very
Oh
funny
my
guy.
God. Yeah, no, I mean Pedro and I, we joined at the same time. So
Yeah.
so that first tour was a pretty crazy tour because we didn't really know the music that much, and
Right.
I won't go into a lot of stuff because but anyway, Pedro and I usually after the show, between the after show meal or even after the show meal, would walk around like say Europe for hours just talking about the music and
Yeah.
and so we were like, great friends because we were both going like, what is going on? We were like each other's psychiatrists in some ways. And yeah, and so like literally, I mean, this last Christmas, I wished him happy Christmas, and he got back to me and stuff. I mean, he's just and Barb, my daughter. I mean, my wife Barbara and my daughter Talia. I mean, they love him.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Argentina. I want to get back and play in Chile and Argentina and Brazil. I mean, I miss those places. And Barb's been there, but Talia has never been there, so I'd love to take her and
No,
so she can experience because the culture is great, the food's great, the people is great, the wine is great, you
that's
know.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
so hopefully, in the next few years or whatever, God willing, that we'll be able to go over there
Yeah.
and
What is coming up for you? Are you quite sure you're working with a lot of different things with
yeah.
different people that ask you to put tracks like that on track here or play a gig and go to a different city or come back to Italy with quite sure you have a lot of things that you're working on at this moment, am I right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, besides like playing gigs with Mike Stern and Sheila,
Yeah.
I mean, Niels Landoki wants me to go over there. There's a lot of Italian projects, but what I did, my wife just bought me for Christmas the Personas 1812C studio because I used to record so much stuff in my house. And
Because
it got I remodeled my studio and some of the stuff was obsolete, like a Motu, you know, Firewire thing was no longer. So now I've got my studio up and running. So now I'm going to be able to do some of these projects at home in my own leisure time, which is really great because I miss doing that. Because, there's all these projects from all over the world that I've done in my studio, and then I kind of got to, and especially teaching and all these things, there's only so many hours in the day and so now I'm going to be able to do that as well as again, I haven't retired, so I've got in a few weeks I'll be teaching the spring 25 courses and all that. So just a
wow.
lot of great things. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Stern is going to be playing here in February. Are you coming here? No. You play with him or no?
I'm
He's going to
playing here in
Maryland.
Chicago. Yeah, I'm playing here in Chicago in February in May, actually.
Yeah, no, he's going to be here in early February, if I remember correctly.
In
In
whereabouts?
in Maryland. I need to look at the venue. I will send you an email with the venue, but I know I will go and see him. I never met the guy, so definitely I wanna
He's the nicest guy, the greatest guy to play with, man.
good, that's great. Yeah, he's a
Oh,
very
no.
good
And
person.
him and Lenny, his wife, I mean,
Yeah,
it's that is a fun gig, you know.
yeah.
And, and again, he lets you play the way you play. So even though he's had, these great drummers, Dennis Chambers and Dave Weckl and all these, I mean, so you're in this lineage. I mean, he wants you to play the way you play. So that's and he's just a great, beautiful person, man. It was wonderful.
That's great. If you're ever in the Washington area or the DC area, Virginia, I live in Northern Virginia, feel free to come. You're invited to come to our house for dinner, Paul. You will have, my wife from Colombia, I'm from Chile, so you will have the best Colombian food of your life, so.
Well, same in Chicago, man. And I'm actually a great cook. So yeah,
All right.
you guys have to come over here. We'll cook for you.
Thank you very much. It was
Yeah.
very nice talking to you again, Paul. For sure, we'll do a follow-up interview again. And you are a great musician, a great person. You have done well in your life. You're a teacher as well, so I'm very happy for you, man. You have done well in your life.
Thanks, Claudio.
It was
Thanks.
very nice talking to you, man.
Right.
Thank you.
I hope your audience enjoys this and
Absolutely, man.
talk
Absolutely.
soon, man.
You should write like an autobiography. You
Well,
think,
everybody asked me to do that. I know I should.
yeah, you have so many stories, man.
I know. It's just a matter. I should probably sit down with someone that types fast because I'm still like two-finger typer.
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
But no, I would love to do that at some point, That would be great.
yeah.
If anyone cares.
No, people do.
Okay. Ciao, my friend. Okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you
Ciao.
very much. Thank you very much.